Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Lunch Tech and Chat. As you know, we don't have lunch anymore because now Will is in another place. We're not physically on the same place. So this is a virtual recording, let's say. Thanks for being with us for another day. Will, how are you?
Yeah, good man. How are things on your end of the world? We are just recording with a couple of hours difference, so it has become breakfast and lunch now. So that's the new name.
Yeah, I just had my lunch. So it's 1 p.m. for me. And yeah, the world of AI has been trembling again. Lots of cool things that we would like to cover today. Let's see how much we can talk about those things. We've
Yeah,
got Goku Plus, Omni-Human, Alexa, Grok, Google, Anthropic, One AI, capital markets, deep research, GPT 4.5, lots of cool stuff to talk about. So let's jump in.
yeah. Let's
What do you
jump
want
in.
to start with, Will?
Let's see what we can cover kind of like during our chat today. But there is a whole bunch of really cool activity that has been actually happening, and I've been doing some tests with some of this stuff and like comparing as well, like kind of like some interactions between different models and seeing how actually that they what kind of like results I get on the other end. But it's getting not only crazy, but it's getting really damn good. So yeah, one that I haven't done it. So, but you apparently you have done some stuff with it. It's Goku Plus. So tell us all about it. What is it?
Yeah, so Goku Plus is a image generation model. Is by ByteDance, the Chinese company, and it's it's more than image. It's a video generator, but
Yeah,
it's I think the quality that those guys have achieved with this seems to be the top quality, like well above Sora and any other systems that I have seen for video generation. I have
yeah.
generated a few sort of videos. One of the videos that I generated was like a car sales guy inside the car selling
Um,
a car TV advertisement. And I have to say that the quality of the person, the car, the movements, mouth moving, of course, there was no sound, but it was so amazing, so realistic. There was a bit that you could see, for example, the back of the car was missing, like things like that. But I think so far, and I'm not even kidding, I think so far this is the best model so far for video generation. It's pretty incredible. And it's really interesting to see how China is taking sort of this AI world so fast. And it feels like they a little niche in general above the US at the moment, I think. Of
do
course,
you
I
think
think the US is gonna
do you
I
think that
think the
that's
US
more
will pick
related
up.
to the kind of like image? Because I've seen a few things around that. So like I've done my test with deep search and all that kind of stuff. But do you think that where they might having a little bit of like an edge, is it more like on the video and image kind of like generation, more so than the reasoning models?
Um, I definitely think that image and video generation. Well, I'll say more about video generation. I think they are ahead of everyone else. Image generation, I think the one that I've seen that seems to work the best so far is probably Grok 3. Grok 3 to generate images seems to be really good. Um, but yeah, I don't feel China's behind. I think that every time someone releases a model now between China and the US, they're gonna be the top reasoning model. But let's see.
Yeah, actually, I think kind of like I don't know if these guys they have built like models on the same on the like they own kind of like startup on the same model of Goku, but it's also another Chinese Chinese company called One AI, and they've we can actually add some links to them in the the show notes. But they have released a model like really really incredible about video generation, text like prompt to video editing, and a whole bunch of like other very very interesting features where actually kind of like keeps the image in the originality and the movement of for example, like on the video editing perspective, like you can put like say a clown kind of like drinking a coffee, and you can just kind of like edit like through a prompt or just like encircling the clown and then saying, oh, replace the clown with like a bear drinking a coffee or something like that, and actually it really keeps the same movement, like the same dynamics, kind of like the balancing of the arms and the whole anatomy actually kind of like stays consistent, whether it's actually the bear or the clown. It's pretty amazing. I definitely recommend people kind of like to try stuff out using that one from that One AI. And I'm not sure if they are using the Goku model. They might. It is possible. It's also from that kind of like, I guess, Chinese
Yeah.
ecosystem startups that actually are developing some of these models around text and image generation and configuration and and editing and so on. But it's really really powerful, and they work both for image editing as much as video editing. So that's the interesting part.
Yeah, there's another one called Gwen AI that they have video generation. I do have Gwen on my phone. I've been playing with it, but the video generation still not working. But on the swap or replacement, like you're saying, Pika Labs from US has released a very similar functionality. So it's that thing that one keeps picking up to the other one. But
Yeah.
that takes me to the next one, which is Omni-Human by ByteDance. That I don't know if you've seen that, but it's pretty amazing what they're doing with one picture. So let's say you take a photo of yourself, you can create videos of conversations, of singing. You can add the movements and sort of what you would like the image to be doing. And the way that that works is so realistic. Like I've seen, I didn't get my hands on OmniHuman. I don't think it's sort of available for usage yet. I've been searching about it. I think they still sort of a closed model like Sora was for a while. But once they release, it's gonna be open source so anyone can run it. But I've seen some previous videos on changing one photo into a whole video clip,
Yeah.
and like with the person singing in the microphone and shit. And it just looks so amazing, so realistic that yeah, deep fake is gonna be next level with
Oh,
these sort of models, man.
it is. It is. It is. I mean, I guess that like there's also like I every time that someone kind of like says, "Well, this is gonna kind of like go into kind of some weird, shitty direction where nobody's gonna understand, it's gonna get weirder and weirder," I always try to think about, I guess, some. I'm optimist, I think, in that sense. I try to kind of like to think about like the positive kind of like uses of this sort of tech, and one that I'm mostly passionate about is education, right? So I could imagine like a very interesting use case where, for example, human, like from a psychology and neuroscience perspective, kind of like humans tend to recognize and to, I guess, recognize and to engage better normally with people that actually kind of like look a little bit like themselves rather than those that are very different. We learn to kind of like to recognize bias, but we still have like a lot of kind of like that genetic code, like that kind of like thing embedded into our into a into a, essentially upbringing,
Um,
right? Like, and one of the things that actually could really see coming out of some of these models is actually where you start customizing, for example, personal assistants for learning and for classes and for things like this, that actually kind of like you could almost like edit the teachers, you could edit whoever, like the assistant that is actually helping that human kind of like learning something, by making it speak in a way that is similar to the way that that person speaks, that looks a little bit more like it, so actually the person has also some sort of kind of connection. So actually also almost like a cognitive behavior kind of like therapy side embedded into an education context. And I would find amazing to have those kinds of things, and identifying how different people learn in different ways, and then embedding that into a learning context. I think like I have a very close kind of like personal relationship to that, because for example, like I have my two kids, and I do know for a fact, because I spend a lot of time kind of doing kind of stuff with school with them and all that kind of stuff, they don't learn the same way. 100%. They don't learn the same way at all, even though they were born the same day, 2 minutes apart from each other. They don't learn the same way at all. And some of my strategies are way less efficient with one relative to the other. And if I could have something as a tool in my toolbox that can say like, well, help me adapt the strategy to the way that this such and such kid will learn a little bit better, I think that it would be an absolutely amazing tool to have there. Yeah, coming back to some of the original kind of ethos of the creation of this podcast is when we brainstorm those kind of like weird and kind of like crazy ideas. Here you go. If there are startup developers kind of like out there looking for a use case, this is an amazing one. And if you are a developer doing that kind of stuff, I would put my money into investing into it personally, right? So because I would use it. I would be a user of such a tool.
yeah. And I don't know how much you've been playing with Grok 3, but I'm thinking that Grok 3, nobody was expecting it to be as good as it is.
Mm.
I've played around with it, I've done a lot of things with it, I've watched a lot of videos, followed a lot of people on Twitter, seeing the amazing things that they are creating. It feels like coding is pretty good. I don't know if it's as good as Claude 3.5 Sonnet, but seems to be pretty good for coding using reasoning. I've seen people generating games, creating games, and man, I yeah, I was not expecting the X company to be delivering such a good new model. And
Mm.
I think Grok 3 compared to all 3 seems to be superior. Of course, we know that there will be new releases of all 3. 4.5 just came live today on Azure as preview. So I don't know if how long Grok 3 will be in the podium for,
Yeah.
but at the moment seems to be like the best model out there. I have not played with Claude 3.5 Sonnet yet, but I know Sonnet used to be really good on coding.
Mm. Yeah. I think I haven't done the image part of Grok 3. I did have some comparisons that I did between O3 and Grok 3 on the reasoning side of things. From my perspective, what I've observed, and I actually used essentially the same prompts on both of them, with some pretty detailed stuff that I know well from my work and from my experience. So it kind of like said like, oh, can you actually do this work almost as like a buddy research analyst of sorts that actually could help do some of the heavy lifting of the work that I do. And I still would kind of be much more. I would trust much more what I could get actually from O3 at this point. I don't know if that will continue over time. I think it's just that the quality and the detail of the output on the reasoning side of things were of a higher degree, because I actually kind of like, it was things that, for example, like involved finance and financial markets and an evolution of some of that kind of stuff, and the types of sources that it has used in its reasoning and the type of output that is produced was of a higher quality from my perspective, from the use cases that actually I have used to on the OpenAI, the 0.3 one. But again, I haven't used for the no kind of like no text, non-analytical based type of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good feedback. I think the good thing is Grok 3 is completely free with reasoning and deep search into it. So you can do lots of amazing things just having an X account. But yeah, I think in general, my experience, some of the chats and comparisons that I've been seeing feels like um, it is a bit superior than O3. But on saying that, of course, for the pro users, they have access to O1, the full O1 Pro model, and that's a whole nother level. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm a pro user of OpenAI, so I have
No, I
access.
mean the $200 subscription to have access to O1, full O1 Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, anyways, from what I've seen, and this is also like relatively new, that OpenAI kind of like released their deep search kind of like features to Plus subscribers now. So since the beginning, I think, of this week. So this is actually quite recent. So a lot of people that were happen to relatively recent times, kind of like paying $200 a month, which is, of course, as we see in this competitive environment, it's pretty absurd to charge people that kind of money. They are now kind of being charged $20, which I think is a reasonable subscription model if you are doing so much stuff with it, especially on a limited basis. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's just,
totally. Makes total sense. Do you want to jump into the Google conversation?
yeah, sure. I think Google has been fairly active recently. So they just released kind of like a like multi-agent framework for hypothesis generation, which I find in like in the line of work and stuff that I do, I find super interesting, to have the capabilities of that, doing that kind of like A/B testing of hypotheses, even for things like, financial markets, kind of like directions and things like that. I find that fascinating that we can start doing that kind of stuff. And yeah, how about you? Have you tried any of these newer kind of like Google models since they were released like
To
less
be
few?
honest, the last one that I tried was Gemini 2.0 when it came along. But
Yeah,
I have been sort of a bit away from Google lately, to be honest. Not for any specific reason. I know Google, they usually release really good and real tested use case scenarios and good tools for end users. But yeah, for some reason, I haven't invested a lot of time on Google lately. So yeah,
yeah.
so not really. But have you been putting much time on Google?
I've actually been doing a little bit of time that I've spending on their Copilot, like just lately, just to compare, because up until now, when it comes like to Copilot to coding activities, I mostly use the GitHub Copilot, which is actually has been primarily using OpenAI, kind of like autocomplete and code generation. But because they are now kind of like putting these coding assistants like there, ramping up also like the capability and the rate limits and all that kind of stuff of how much you actually can do for free. I've been doing a bit of testing to see how the similar requests that I would do when I generate kind of like the creation of like an app of some sort, how much the quality, like how is the quality of the code comparatively generated between those are. And yeah, so I don't have yet kind of like a final kind of like conclusion saying like this is better than Copilot, because I haven't been using for long enough. But yeah, I'll start doing more experiments between them, and then maybe we can talk about it in a future episode.
Yeah, I think my favorite development tool at the moment is Cursor, and if you hook up to Claude Sonnet, seems to work really, really well. That's what I've been using at the moment. All
Sounds
right,
good.
so just before we wrap up, do you want to give a very quick update on the capital market, Will?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about some of the crypto stuff, just because there has been there's been a lot of stories kind of like happening over the last week or so in that. So the main one being that now we have hit the record of a hack. So Bybit, which is a Abu Dhabi based exchange, one of the biggest exchanges around the world, actually has had like a hack of $1.5 billion, which
Jeez.
which allegedly they managed to recover from it. But anyways, it was a big one on associated with like a bad use of like a multi-sig. So that has impacted, of course, has sent shockwaves across the whole crypto. And over the last 24 48 hours, there has been a lot of a significant correction in a lot of assets. So yeah, so this is probably the
Time to buy.
highlight. There is probably a highlight of the week, where you have like those, I guess, I don't know if you can call it a black swan, but you have like this big events, and then kind of like they explode across the whole market, and the whole market all kind of like correlates with each other all on the way down. So this is the thing. But I don't see necessarily like the capitulation that the market actually is saying. Like I went yesterday to a venture capital get together with a lot of developers in the room, and some investors and so on. And I still see the same excitement. There is still a lot of people actually building the coolest shit. So I keep strong and keep going.
So not financial advisors, but
No
time to
financial
buy
advice
crypto.
whatsoever.
Uh-huh. All right. Thank you very much for the people that listen us to the end. Leave in the comments financial advisors. Let us know if anything of this topic was interesting to you, what you would like to listen more from us. And Will, I'll see you next week.
See you next week, mate. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye.